Right, welcome back. Today we're taking a step forward in our path, tackling a big topic, alcohol moderation, one of the aspects of alcohol moderation. We're talking about alcohol moderation as something that only affects those people who are still plugged into these old habits, right, to the old alcohol lifestyle. Those who are drinking heavily, those who are feeling the effects of the hangovers. I think those things are the least of their worries, right? It's these people who are dealing with the fallout, with the pain, and it's these people who are thinking about moderation. If you're thinking about moderation, you're already in that cycle. You know, you're already past that point of no return in terms of your alcohol use. You see, it is a cycle. So we're always wrestling with our own desires. What's the point in drinking if you don't get the buzz, right? Your tolerance levels are always going to revert back to what I call your normal. It's not the normal of anyone else. I mean, everything that has to do with the habit, with the alcohol, with your tolerance, with what you can put up with how much damage there is in your body, with how old you are, it's all down to your levels of normal. And those levels of normal are not fixed, by the way. They're fluid, they change as you age, they change as you get more damage in your body. So everything, once you're in that moderation cycle and you stop and you try to moderate, you go back to it goes back to that normal drinking very quickly afterwards. And I think it says that you're more interested in short-term feelings and emotions than in your long-term health and happiness, even though you might try and kid yourself that it's not going to happen to you, that this is just a phase that you're going through, or that you're going to change before any real damage is done. That's not really the way this works. And it's something that deep down inside, this is not going to work. It's again, you're trying to avoid the realities of the situation, that you are pouring a poison into your body, and you have to stop doing this completely, right? From day one, this has been a bad idea. So you have a nasty problem going on in your mind. You don't want to appear foolish to yourself, right? But you're doing something that is foolish, right? I've been there. I know that. Been there so many times in my life. Knew that I was doing something which was completely stupid for me, but I was trying to avoid the situation, right? And this internal situation, this internal conflict, is called cognitive dissonance. Now, before I go any further, I want you to think about this from just the perspective of how this is going to affect you in not just in the short term, but in the long term. If you don't do anything positive about this, positive is the key word here, right? There's plenty that your mind is going to do, but you're going to see that most of what your mind is capable of doing, without you putting in a strong effort, taking strong actions as well, is like trying to fix a deep cut in your hand or something like that with just a sticky plaster. It's not going to work, right? Think about cognitive dissonance as the mental discomfort or kind of psychological stress that you feel when you try to hold two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, values. In this case, the discomfort is because you understand on the one hand that alcohol is harmful to you, but you still continue to consume it for what? For temporary satisfaction, right? This is a conflict that leads to stress and leads to anxiety. It leads to more stress and more anxiety. That's what we're talking about, this cycle that you get into all the time. It leads to psychological damage, like lowering your self-confidence, reducing your self-belief. How can you believe in yourself? How can you believe in your judgment, in your own judgment about what you're doing, when you know that you're pouring this poison into your body continuously for the sake of a cheap thrill? Like I said, I've gone through all this. This is something that I know, and I only know this because I've stepped outside of it. These actions of yours, these actions of mine when I was drinking, they just weren't aligning with how I perceived myself, how you perceive yourself, how you perceive your place in the world, or how you want to perceive yourself, because you've got this conflict. Nobody likes this kind of continuous psychological conflict that's going on all the time. Psychological conflict that just won't go away. If you continue to do the actions, think about the Einstein quote of the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing and get different results. There's a motivation to try and reduce that dissonance, right? To reduce the anxiety by either altering what you believe or creating new beliefs that basically fit with what you're doing. So you're basically trying to harmonize and balance what you're thinking and trying to harmonize that with what you're doing so that you don't feel so bad, right? And one of the most basic things that we do as drinkers to reduce that dissonance, to reduce the anxiety, is to minimize the consequences, or minimize the consequences as they appear in our minds. We tell ourselves we'll change tomorrow, or we'll change next week, or we'll change in January. We say, well, the change is on the horizon, I'm just not going to do it yet. We tell ourselves, yeah, in the grand scheme of things and in comparison to some people, some alcoholics, we don't drink that much. There's loads of people who drink much more than we do. And we tell ourselves that, things like wine is good for you, because it's been proven. How many articles have you read that say there's benefits to resveratrol or some other component of wine? It's so much easier to delude yourself because you are both the deluder and the deluded, okay? So this is why you're never going to win at that moderation game, why you'll never win at the moderation battle. We all feel that conflict. You feel the dissonance, you feel the anxiety, and it all gets to that point where it becomes too much for you. You get to the point where the consequences of what you're doing, the pain, the discomfort of what you're doing becomes too much. And the worst thing is, and I've gone through this so many times myself, is you convince yourself that you don't need to stop pouring this poison into your mouth. Why would you ever need to stop doing something that everyone else is doing? All your mates are doing, your family are doing, most of the people that when I was drinking, it just seemed like everybody was drinking, right? And they're not, but that's it. So you get to that pain threshold, you make the decision to stop or to cut down, and you cut down for a while. And it works for a while, and you pat yourself on the shoulder because of a job well done. Well, the reason why it works is because the discomfort that has pushed you across that line, that discomfort is keeping the motivation up. But once the discomfort leaves, once that pain goes, how are you going to keep the motivation up? So the moderation gradually falls into the background, right? All that patting yourself on the back is for nothing. Bit by bit, you climb back up that consumption ladder right to where you were before, or even worse. And if you're in this cycle, know that you're not alone, right? There are plenty of people in this community here on YouTube or wherever you're watching this. There's plenty of people who are going through this, who've been there, who are who've been seriously plugged into this habit and have overcome it. And we're here to support you as you take your first steps forward towards unplugging from this habit, right? Unplugging from the loop. We have a beginner's guide to getting sober available for you. It's free at the moment still. So all you have to do is click on the link below and I'll send it out to you straight away. You can get started. Now remember, keep the alcohol out of your mouth, take one step at a time, and always onwards and upwards. Take care. Bye now.